Graduation day was supposed to be golden. My twin, Elise, got a 3-month trip to Europe. I got a $10 Starbucks card with a handwritten quote. Gratitude makes life richer. Everyone laughed. No one knew that for 18 months, I'd been paying their mortgage. That morning, I stopped the transfer. By nightfall, my father tried to reconnect my account behind my back. 2 weeks later, a single wrong email sent every receipt to our entire family tree, and the perfect Reynolds image cracked like porcelain. They thought I'd lost control. But what they didn't know was, I just started taking it back. I grew up in a house that looked like a magazine spread white shutters, trimmed hedges, the scent of lilacs floating through spring air. Neighbors used to say the Reynolds were the perfect family. They didn't know that inside those walls, perfection had rules, and love had a dress code. Mom, Victoria, believed every moment was a performance. Her voice could host a charity gala or slice through silence like glass. Appearances are everything, she'd remind us, brushing invisible dust off Elise's shoulders before piano recitals. Smile even if your hands shake. People only remember what they see. I learned early how to disappear gracefully. The first real memory I have is of that recital when we were 10. I can still smell Mom's citrus perfume, hear the squeak of folding chairs, the soft clearing of throats as parents waited for their prodigies. Elise went first. She wore a pink bow, one that kept sliding sideways. She missed half her notes, paused, then flashed the crowd a smile so bright it forgave every mistake. Applause roared. Mom stood, clapping harder than anyone. Then it was my turn. I played Moon River, steady and exact, each note pressed with care. When I finished, there was polite applause. Mom leaned forward, lips curved, but voice soft and sharp. Claire, music isn't math. You should play with heart. I nodded, pretending her words didn't sting. But inside, something small and living, curled, tight and quiet. That night, Elise got ice cream. I got advice about being more approachable. Years blurred. I became the fixer, the one who solved problems before anyone noticed. When Dad's laptop crashed, I restored his files. When Mom's phone wouldn't back up, I handled it. When Elise needed her social media portfolio to look professional, I designed it. You're such a lifesaver, she'd say, tapping away another filtered selfie. Mom would smile approvingly. That's my reliable girl. Reliable. The word fit like a chain, soft enough not to bruise, heavy enough to keep me still. At school, I was the quiet twin. Elise's laughter carried through hallways. Mine stayed in notebooks. Teachers said we were identical, but we weren't. She glowed. I reflected light. One autumn afternoon, I won the district science fair solar filtration prototype. Elise came with a handmade poster that spelled her name wrong in glitter. Guess who made the family photo album? Your sister brings people joy, Mom explained. You bring results. Both are valuable. I was 13 and already fluent in translation. You're useful, not lovable. Every family dinner felt like theater. Silverware, candlelight, Dad's bourbon glass glinting as he bragged about Elise's charm. He'd talk about her spark of leadership, how she'd probably host her own show someday. Then he'd turn to me with that mild academic pride reserved for statistics. Claire's very disciplined. Good head for numbers. A compliment wrapped in distance. One Thanksgiving, Elise forgot to set the oven timer. The turkey burned, smoke curling around our perfect dining room. She laughed, waving a dish towel like a flag of surrender. Mom joined her laughter. Oh, sweetie, mistakes happen. It'll be our little joke. The next day, when I undercooked the cranberry sauce, Mom frowned. Claire, details matter. People notice. It was always people, never us. I got my first job at 16, part-time at a diner off Beacon Street. Grease, burnt coffee, the hiss of the soda machine. I didn't mind. The manager paid in cash, and I sent half home to help with household expenses. Later, I found out the expenses were Elise's dance lessons. When I confronted Mom, she smiled, unbothered. It's all the same pot, honey. We share. I wanted to ask why sharing always flowed one way, but I swallowed it. I'd been swallowing things my whole life: resentment, pride, disappointment, until my insides felt full of unsaid words. College came. MIT accepted me. Elise got into an art school in L.A. The night before we left for our separate cities, Mom hosted a dinner, white candles and linen napkins, as if we were both being married off to our futures. "You girls are our legacy," she said, eyes glistening. "Make us proud." Elise hugged her tightly, promising to shine. I just nodded, promising to try. MIT was everything home wasn't cold. Direct, honest. No one cared how I looked at brunch. They cared about code, performance, precision. I liked it there. The hum of computers, the smell of solder and caffeine, it felt like oxygen. I picked up shifts freelancing for a small startup, Novatech Labs, designing AI systems for medical use. The pay was good. At first, I sent money home willingly. Just until things settle, Dad had said when his department cut funding. Months turned into a year. Every month, a transfer left my account labeled mortgage payment, Reynolds home. I didn't tell anyone. Maybe I wanted to believe that love could be built from quiet sacrifices. Every wire transfer felt like a seed dropped in dark soil. I kept waiting for something to grow. I didn't know it back then, but that silence mine was the first weapon I ever built. At first, sending money home felt noble. I pictured Mom lighting candles over the dinner table, Dad reading quietly by the fire, Elise humming upstairs our house alive because of me. It gave meaning to all those sleepless nights at MIT, code glowing on my laptop, while the radiator hissed like it was breathing for me. But the truth is, love that depends on silence eventually forgets who kept it alive. I remember one specific winter night. Snow layered the sidewalks like powdered glass. My roommate had gone home for Christmas. I stayed, pretending finals kept me. Really, I couldn't afford the flight. Mom FaceTimed from our perfect living room, fireplace crackling, everyone in matching pajamas. "We miss you," she said brightly, though no one looked up from their phones. I stared at the corner of the screen, where the stockings hung 3 with embroidered names. Victoria, Charles, Elise. No Claire. I laughed it off, told her the Wi-Fi was cutting out. It wasn't. After that, I started coding longer, sleeping less. My world became pixels and data streams, logic I could control. In the quiet between keystrokes, I told myself this was temporary, that one day they'd notice, maybe even say thank you. But gratitude in my family was a performance, not a practice. During my junior year, I came home for spring break. The house looked exactly the same: white shutters, fresh flowers, nothing out of place. Mom's heels clicked across the marble floor. "Don't forget to take photos with your sister," she said as if it were a job. Elise had just hit 10,000 followers. She wanted new pictures, with matching vibes. I smiled through each snapshot, holding a bouquet I'd bought myself. That night, I overheard Mom and Dad in the kitchen. "She's brilliant, but so unemotional." Mom sighed. Dad chuckled softly. "Not everyone can sparkle like Elise. Claire's practical." They said it kindly, the way people describe a reliable washing machine. When I went back to school, I stopped expecting softness. That summer, Dad called sounding panicked. "Interest rates are climbing. If we miss another payment, the bank might review our file." I was 21. My heart thudded. "How much?" I asked. He hesitated. "A few thousand. Just until I sort things out." I sent it the same day, then again the next month, and the next. Each time, he promised to take over soon. He never did. By graduation, I'd sent 18 payments, every one tagged Reynolds mortgage paid by Claire. I thought maybe it was love in motion, but love doesn't keep receipts. Then came the night everything solidified into truth. It was late, maybe to a.m. I just finished a long coding session for Novatech Labs. The screen glowed blue across my small Cambridge apartment. I opened my banking app, more out of habit than need. The balance blinked back at me, smaller than I remembered. Then the line items appeared. Mortgage transfer, Reynolds home. 18 of them stacked like quiet fingerprints. I stared until the numbers blurred. That was my year and a half compressed into digits, decimals, and good intentions. I leaned back in my chair, listening to the radiator hum. Somewhere below, a car horn echoed through the alley. I thought of Elise, asleep in her queen-sized bed, her Europe itinerary probably pinned on her wall. I thought of Mom, probably planning another brunch. And I thought of Dad, sipping whiskey, convinced money would always appear when he needed it. It hit me then the entire system only worked because I never said no. The next morning, sunlight hit my window like a verdict. I opened the payment portal, hovered over the recurring transfer box, and unchecked it. The screen blinked confirmation, Automatic payments disabled. That click was quieter than any goodbye, but it changed everything. For a few days, nothing happened. Silence stretched, wide and calm. I focused on finishing a project for Novatech, coding an empathy-based user interface for hospitals. The irony wasn't lost on me. I was designing empathy I'd never received. Then the calls began. Missed payments, bank alerts. Dad's voice, first confused, then sharp. Claire, the bank says the mortgage didn't go through. I know, I said. You can't just stop paying. I can, Dad. I did. Silence. Then the phrase that still stings when I remember it. You can't walk away from family. I'm not walking away, I said quietly. I'm stepping out. That was the first time my voice didn't shake. When I hung up, I sat in the stillness, heart pounding like something new was being born inside me. For the first time in my life, I wasn't saving anyone. I didn't know it yet, but that tiny act of defiance would set off a chain reaction, one that would burn through every illusion we'd ever built. When you grow up in a family that measures love and obligation, the moment you stop giving feels like a crime. 2 days after I stopped the payments, my phone rang while I was at work. I recognized the number before I answered. My father's voice carried a certain tension, a mix of control and disbelief. Claire, the mortgage didn't process this month. The bank says the account was disconnected. Yeah, I said, keeping my tone flat. I stopped the transfer. For a second, silence. Then, sharp as a paper cut. You what? I've been paying it for a year and a half. It's your house, Dad. Not mine. He laughed. That tight, humorless kind of laugh people use when they're losing authority. Don't be ridiculous. We're family. You don't just quit. I didn't quit, I said softly. I just stopped funding the illusion. He hung up. By the time I got home that evening, my phone had 5 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Elise, and 1 voicemail that started sweet and ended with accusation. Claire, honey, you're scaring your father. You know he's been under pressure. Why are you making this harder than it needs to be? Gratitude isn't about fairness, it's about love. I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen, wondering when love had become a bill that auto-renewed. That week, the tension simmered quietly, like a pot left on low heat. Emails from the bank arrived, alerts about payment attempts and authorization rejections. I brushed them off until Mrs. Lorna, the branch manager, called me directly. Her tone was polite but cautious. Miss Reynolds, I just need to confirm, did you recently authorize your father to add your account as a backup payment method? My stomach tightened. No, I didn't. She hesitated. Then I'll flag this and freeze all linked requests. But you might want to talk to him. Talk. As if conversation ever worked in my house. I drove to Brookline that Friday. The neighborhood looked exactly like it always did, quiet, trimmed, respectable. But when I pulled into the driveway, I felt the kind of dread you can't explain, only feel in your bones. Inside, the house smelled of lemon cleaner and something burnt. Mom sat on the couch, legs crossed, fingers tapping her wine glass. Dad stood near the window, arms folded, staring at nothing. Elise leaned against the banister, scrolling through her phone, pretending not to listen. Mom started first. Claire, darling, we need to talk about this situation. I kept my bag on my shoulder. What situation? The one where I stopped paying for your house? Her smile didn't move her eyes. Don't say it like that. We're a family. We help each other. Then maybe it's your turn. Dad's jaw tightened. You think you're better than us now? Because you've got some fancy degree and a paycheck? I looked at him, really looked. His face was older, thinner, but his pride hadn't aged a day. No, Dad. I think I finally understand us. You built a family that survives on whoever's willing to bleed quietly. Elise scoffed. Oh, come on. You could have just talked to them before making a scene. I turned to her. You mean like how you talked your way to Paris? Using my money? Her face froze, a flicker of guilt before she masked it with attitude. That was a gift. Mom said it was from the family fund. Yeah, I said. That fund was me. No one spoke after that. The clock ticked in the corner, loud enough to count every second of their denial. Finally, Mom stood. Her voice softened, the way it always did before she twisted the knife. Claire, you're overreacting. You have a good job, a good life. Don't let success make you arrogant. I smiled faintly. I'm not arrogant. I'm awake. I left before anyone could answer. Outside, dusk had turned the sky the color of bruised lavender. I sat in my car, hands shaking around the steering wheel, and let the tears come, not the messy kind, but quiet ones that slide down your cheeks when relief and grief mix. That night, I opened my laptop and created a new folder on my desktop, Truth Ledger. Inside, I began organizing everything: bank statements, call logs, screenshots of every transaction I'd ever made for them. I didn't know if I was preparing for war or simply protecting myself. But as I watched the files stack one by one, I realized something important. This wasn't about revenge. It was about proof that I wasn't crazy, that I hadn't imagined the imbalance, the gaslighting, the invisible labor dressed as love. I clicked save. The folder blinked on the screen, calm and still. Some wars don't start with shouting. They start with documentation. 2 weeks passed before the silence broke again. This time, it wasn't a call. It was an email from my aunt, subject line in all caps. "What's going on, Claire?" At first, I didn't understand. Then I saw the attachment: screenshots of my payment records. Mortgage transfer, Reynolds home, 18 of them, neatly stacked with my name in the memo line. My stomach dropped. I opened my sent folder and felt the world tilt. I'd been updating tax files the night before and had attached the wrong folder to a group email meant for my accountant. The CC list included my aunt's family thread, 30 people. Within an hour, my phone started vibrating: nonstop texts, missed calls, notifications piling like hailstones. Mom's voice came through on the fourth ring, breathless. "Claire, what did you do?" "I sent the wrong file," I said. "You exposed us," she hissed. "Margaret shared it on Facebook. Everyone's seen it. Church friends, neighbors, people are calling, asking questions." "Then maybe answer them," I said. Dad's voice thundered in the background. "You've humiliated this family." "No," I said calmly. "I just stopped hiding the truth." That sentence landed like a grenade. By noon, my aunt's post had over 200 comments, some kind, others cruel. "She's such a good daughter," one read. Another said, "She's showing off. Probably wants attention." I tried not to look, but it's hard to ignore when your family's decay goes viral. Elise texted, "You didn't have to ruin everything. You could have just deleted the transfers." I typed back, "I shouldn't have had to make them in the first place." Then I turned my phone face down. 2 days later, Dad called. His voice was stripped bare, the way people sound when their pride runs out of air. "Do you know what you've done? The bank is questioning our refinance. The neighbors won't even look at us." "I didn't do that," I said quietly. "Your choices did." He exhaled hard. "We took care of you your whole life." "No," I said. "You used me my whole life. There's a difference." He hung up. For a while, I thought maybe the storm would pass. It didn't. A week later, I got a call from Mrs. Lorna at the bank. "Mr. Reynolds' refinance application has been flagged. Without your deposits, their income records don't meet threshold." I thanked her, hung up, and just sat there, staring at the glow of my computer screen. There was no satisfaction, just a quiet sense of balance being restored, like gravity reasserting itself. Within a month, the for sale sign appeared on the front lawn of the Brookline house. The one with white shutters, the hydrangeas, the manicured perfection. It looked smaller than I remembered. That weekend, I drove by. The porch light still worked, the one I had rewired years ago. I parked across the street, watching my parents carry boxes into the car. Mom wore sunglasses, though it was cloudy. Elise trailed behind, holding a vase wrapped in newspaper. For a second, I almost got out, some part of me still wanting to help, to fix, to make it right. But then I remembered every time I'd stood in that living room and been told gratitude was richer than fairness. Sometimes, the most generous thing you can do is stop saving people who enjoy drowning. I started focusing on my work instead. At Novatech Labs, I was promoted to lead designer for a new healthcare AI system. My boss said I had quiet precision. I liked that phrase. It sounded like the antidote to chaos. Then one afternoon, as I was finishing mock-ups, my phone buzzed again. "Elise." I stared at the name for a long time before answering. "Mom's not sleeping," she said. Her voice was small, shaky. "Dad's depressed. They're losing everything. You did this." I took a slow breath. "No, Elise. They did." "You've changed," she whispered. "I had to." She didn't reply. Just silence, and then the faint click of disconnection. That night, I couldn't sleep. The apartment felt too still. I made tea, stood by the window, and looked out over the city. Boston lights shimmered on the Charles River, the same view I used to admire from the other side, the side where I belonged to people who measured worth in convenience. I realized I didn't miss them. I missed the version of myself who kept believing they'd change. Still, the guilt came in waves. I'd scroll through old photos, Thanksgiving dinners, birthdays, Elise's graduation, and wonder if I'd gone too far. But guilt and love look the same in the dark. You can't tell which one's burning until morning. One morning, it hit me differently. I wasn't the villain of this story. I was just the only one who stopped lying. So I opened the truth ledger again, renamed the top file Freedom entry hash shown. And for the first time in years, I felt light. Not happy, just unburdened. I didn't know it yet, but that accident, the email, the exposure wasn't the end of my story. It was only the first sign that the truth had teeth. The day the house sold, winter sunlight poured through the bare trees like cold fire. Brookline streets were slick with slush, the kind that crunches under your shoes and makes every breath sting. I parked across the street from the Reynolds house, the same one I'd kept alive with my paychecks, and watched strangers step across the porch where I'd once left Christmas gifts no one opened. By noon, I got the call I'd been expecting. "Come home," Mom said, voice thin but controlled. "Please, we need to talk." I almost didn't go, but something in her tone, some mixture of desperation and pride, made me curious. When I walked in, the air smelled of packing tape and old lemon polish. The furniture was half covered in plastic sheets, boxes stacked like coffins along the hallway. Elise sat at the dining table, scrolling through her phone. Dad stood near the piano, the same upright that had started everything. Mom hovered by the window, clutching her wineglass, though it was barely noon. Dad turned first. "You happy now?" His voice was hoarse, raw. "The house is gone. Years of work gone. Years of my work too," I said quietly. He let out a dry laugh. "Don't you dare take credit for this, family." "I'm not," I said. "I'm just taking my name off the bill." Mom set her glass down too hard. It clinked against the marble. "You didn't have to humiliate us. That post, those records, everyone saw. People think we used you." I met her eyes. "Because you did." Her face flushed. "You're ungrateful." I smiled a little. "You keep using that word like it's holy." Elise looked up from her phone, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. "You ruined everything, Claire. You could have fixed it, like always." "That's exactly the problem," I said. "You all expect me to fix it, even when I'm the one you break." The room fell silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. I could feel my pulse in my throat. Dad finally spoke, voice trembling between rage and fear. "We're family. You can't just walk away from family." I looked at him, calm but sharp. "No, Dad. We're a system, and I just stopped funding it." He froze, mouth open but empty of words. For a moment, no one moved. Then, as if on cue, the front doorbell rang. Mom flinched. "That'll be the realtor." The woman who entered carried a clipboard and a smile too polite for the tension she walked into. "Just finalizing signatures," she chirped. "We'll need everyone's initials here." Dad grabbed the pen, hand shaking, and signed. Mom followed. Elise hesitated, then scrawled her name quickly. I didn't move. "You don't need mine," I said. The realtor blinked. "Oh, of course. My apologies." I stepped back, watching them sign away the only symbol they'd ever cared about: their image. The perfect White House, the curated illusion. The realtor handed over an envelope, thanked them, and left, heels clicking down the driveway. The silence afterward felt heavier than grief. Mom sank into a chair, staring at the envelope like it could reverse time. Dad paced. Elise crossed her arms, muttering something about starting over. I walked to the piano, the same one from that recital when we were 10. The cover was dusty, keys yellowing with age. I lifted the lid and pressed the first notes of Moon River. My fingers stumbled intentionally, missing the same places Elise had once missed. For the first time, I let the imperfection breathe. Mom looked up, startled. "What are you doing?" "Playing with heart," I said. The melody filled the hollow room, thin and fragile but alive. The sound echoed off the plastic-covered furniture, off the walls that had held every fake smile and swallowed argument. When the last note faded, I stood, brushing dust from my hands. I used to think love was something you earned, I said quietly. But love that demands proof isn't love, it's accounting. No one replied. I turned toward the door. Elise's voice broke the silence. So that's it? You just walk away? I glanced back. No, Elise. I finally stopped standing still. Outside, the winter air sliced clean against my skin. The sky had that sharp, metallic blue only January can make. Behind me, through the window, I saw Dad sink into a chair, head in his hands. Mom stared at the piano like it might explain something she'd missed. I walked down the front steps slowly, my breath rising in pale clouds. Each exhale felt lighter. At the curb, I paused. For the first time, the house didn't look like home. It looked like what it had always been, a stage. And the performance was finally over. As I reached my car, a voice called from behind. Elise. She ran out, coat half-zipped, snow crunching under her boots. Wait, she said. Mom's falling apart. Dad can barely look at me. Can't you just undo this? I shook my head. You can't unsee the truth, Elise. Her lip trembled. You've changed. I had to, I said again, this time without bitterness. You only loved me when I was useful. She looked like she might argue. But no words came, just a long, shivering breath. When I drove away, the rearview mirror caught the image of the White House shrinking behind me. The sun hit the windows, flashing for a second like a spark before fading. Justice didn't roar that day. It didn't arrive with revenge speeches or grand gestures. It came quietly through contracts signed, illusions broken, and a song played off-key on purpose. By the time I crossed the Longfellow Bridge, the Charles River glittered below, ice breaking in small fractures that looked like silver veins. I rolled down the window, letting the cold wind hit my face. It stung, but it also reminded me I was alive. Some endings don't explode. They exhale. And that's how mine began. After that day, the word home stopped belonging to a place. It became something I had to design from scratch. I moved into a small apartment near Kendall Square, brick walls, tall windows, the smell of old wood and coffee from the cafe below. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The first night, I sat on the floor surrounded by unopened boxes and silence that didn't demand anything from me. For once, silence didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. At Novatech Labs, life moved quickly. I buried myself in work, sketching prototypes for hospital AI systems that could predict burnout in doctors. It was strange designing empathy when I'd spent years surviving without it. My boss, Noah Bennett, stopped by my desk one morning, holding a cup of coffee. "You've got something special," he said. Quiet precision. The phrase stayed with me. It sounded like who I was: steady, deliberate, exact. A few weeks later, an email popped up. Harvard Innovation Fellowship, application accepted. They wanted me to present my project on human-centered design in healthcare. For a second, I just stared. Then I laughed, soft and disbelieving. I'd spent years building something invisible, and now, people finally saw it. But the past has a way of finding your new address. It started with another notification, an online banking alert. New attempt to link external account. Charles Reynolds. My stomach tightened. I called the bank immediately. "Mrs. Lorna," answered, her tone apologetic. "Miss Reynolds, it seems your father tried to reconnect your account. We've already blocked it, but we thought you should know." I thanked her, hung up, and opened my laptop. The Truth Ledger folders still sat there, untouched since the night I walked out of Brookline. I opened it. File names glowed across the screen: dates, receipts, call transcripts, evidence, proof, power. For months, it had just been a record. But now, it was something else: a shield. I didn't send it anywhere. I didn't threaten. I didn't even reply to my father's attempts to contact me. I just renamed the folder Archive 1, Foundation. Because revenge wasn't about destruction anymore. It was about boundaries that no one could edit again. When Elise showed up at my office a week later, she looked smaller, hair unbrushed, voice cracked. "Mom can't sleep. Dad's falling apart. They're saying you'll regret this." I looked up from my desk, calm. "Maybe, but at least it'll be my regret, not theirs." She glanced around the room, taking in the sketches, the whiteboards, the soft hum of progress. "You really built all this?" "From scratch," I said. "Turns out, I'm good at rebuilding things that collapse." She didn't argue, just whispered, "You always were." After she left, I stood by the window, watching snow fall over the city. Boston glittered, distant, impersonal, alive. I thought of the house in Brookline, now empty. The family photos probably packed away in boxes that smelled like dust and denial. Somewhere in that silence, I hoped Mom found something real beneath the wreckage of her perfection. I didn't hate them. I just finally loved myself more. As the city lights blinked across the river, I opened a new folder on my computer, right beside Truth Ledger. I titled it Design Draft 1, Future Systems. Because sometimes the cleanest revenge isn't fire, it's creation. They thought I'd burned everything down, but all I'd really done was build a life they couldn't mortgage. If you've ever been the quiet one, the fixer, the peacemaker, the person everyone calls reliable until you finally break, then you already know my story. Walking away doesn't make you heartless. It just means you're done being used. Gratitude isn't silence. It's choosing yourself when no one else will. So tell me where you're watching from, and hit like and subscribe if you've ever been loved for what you gave instead of who you are. Because stories like mine aren't about revenge. They're about finally letting truth breathe and learning that peace is the loudest justice of all.